Good evening, Bu, Anita, and my friends. This evening, I'm going to share about the third chapter from the book How to Build a 21st Century School System. The title of this chapter is What Makes High Performing School Systems Different. So, from this chapter, more or less, we're going to learn more what makes these high performing schools based on the PISA measurement is uh, performing well. Why the school or particularly the students perform well according to the PISA measurement or the test. Now, the first one is what we know about successful school system. Using the PISA alone, it is not enough, or knowing what successful systems are doing does not tell us how to improve less successful system. So basically, learning from this or seeing the tables will not guarantee that we can directly learn from it and we can improve, like say, our schools to be like these schools or these performing top performing schools. Okay, but it is also why PISA does not presume to tell countries what they should do, so it is not simply a guidelines for any schools in any countries to perform well or to fix their school system or educational system, but it tells more or less with what those top performing schools doing, or simply here I highlight it tells countries what everybody else is doing in the world. Now here I have this particular paragraph which is quite interesting. So education policy makers can benefit from international comparisons in the same way that business leaders learn to steer their companies towards success. So simply by taking inspiration from others and then adapting lessons learned to their own situation. So for example, we learn from Finland, from Japan, from Estonia, and from other countries in which they progress. For example, like from Singapore. So within, let's say, a couple of decades, they can change their educational system from being surviving, so from the survival mode to become the first or the top one in the rank. Now, for policymakers in education, this can be achieved through various forms of benchmarking, which are analyzing observed differences in the quality, equity, and efficiency of education between one country and another, and considering how they are related to certain features of those countries' education system. Here we have Mark Tucker, in which his approach is the most widely used. His benchmarking studies have revealed a surprising range of features common to all high-performing education systems. Here I highlight some. So the first one is that it is worth investing in the future through education, and that it is better to compete on the quality of labor rather than on the price of labor. So later we will learn more what is meant by this. Then the second one is the belief that every student can learn. In countries as different as Estonia, Canada, Finland, and Japan, parents and teachers are committed to the belief that all students can meet high standards. So this is quite interesting, especially for me and particularly for some English teachers here in Indonesia or in Surabaya. Sometimes we are faced with this standardized test or with the minimum criterion of, yeah, passing grade and things like that. Sometimes we tend to make sure that students will not fail with our classes. So sometimes instead of making sure that students meet the standard, we tend to lower the standard. Here, the beliefs are often manifested in student and teacher behavior. These systems have advanced from sorting human talent to developing human talent. The next one is to that top school systems tend to address the diversity of student needs with differentiated pedagogical practice without compromising on standards. They personalize the education experience so that all students can meet high standards, like what I mentioned earlier in the previous point. Now, the next one is that nowhere does the quality of a school system exceed the quality of its teachers. This is really interesting. So, yeah, top school systems select and educate their teaching staff carefully. I like the idea that yeah, there's no school or there's no school system in which it is exceeding the quality of its teachers, uh, the quality of its teachers, meaning that the teacher is the most important thing. The success of the school system, or yeah, the percentage or the main factors to make a school system successful is the teacher in this case. So they provide an environment in which teachers work together to frame good practice, and they encourage teachers to grow in their careers. And then the next one is that top performing school systems set ambitious goals, are clear about what students should be able to do, and enable teachers to figure out what they need to teach their students. They encourage their teachers to be innovative, to improve their own performance and that of their colleagues, and to pursue professional development that leads to better practice. So the emphasis is creating a culture of collaboration and strong networks of innovation. Next one is that the best performing school system provide high quality education across the entire system so that every student benefits from excellent teaching. And the last one, but not the least, that they ensure that the policies are coherent over sustained periods of time and they see that they are consistently implemented. All right, so the next sub chapter is making education a priority. In many of the highest performing countries in PISA, teachers are typically paid better. Education credentials are valued more, and a larger share of spending on education is devoted to what happens in the classroom. The status accorded to education will have an effect on whether the public values the views of professional educators or fails to take them seriously. So this is talking about how the society perceive the profession of teachers. If they are seen as something which is very important, like what the top or the highest performing countries have with their society, so yeah, it is a one forward step for ensuring that yeah, they will have a better performance in education. Now, from this figure 3.1, in some countries, most teachers feel their work is not valued by society. Okay, so some people say, in the case of Indonesia, so some people say that in the past, people respect the teachers more than the society perceive the teachers nowadays. We have lots of cases and examples from this, and we have also discussed this one last meeting. So yeah, I do agree with this one, that the first or the key is to have the society perceive positively to the profession of teachers. Okay, next one is the believing that all students can learn and achieve at high levels. Placing a high value on education that and the belief that children can or need to meet high academic standards is important. By contrast, for example, in East Asian countries performing well in PISA and also in other high-performing countries, parents, teachers, and the public at large tend to share the belief that all students are capable of high achievement. So, like I mentioned earlier, instead of lowering the standard, instead, these high-performing countries, they believe that the students, that their children are capable of reaching the high standard. So the key is to find the ways to make these children or the students achieve this high standard instead of lowering the standard. In doing so, it compromises the whole thing. So all of these tends to be mirrored in the students' beliefs. For example, in Asian students, they are often explicitly taught that effort and hard work are the keys to success. For example, like the Malaysian and also the Singaporean, or in Korea, we know that in South Korea there's this kind of program in which the students go or attend night classes after general or after their school hours to make sure that they will meet this uh, score for their standardized tests that they're going to face. I forgot the name, but yeah, there is this kind of thing. And then the Asian teachers are not only helping students succeed, but also helping them believe that it is their own ability and effort that are sources of their success. This is what I meant earlier. So, in other countries, when students struggle, teachers respond by lowering standards. In doing so, they imply that low achievement is the consequence of a lack of inherent ability. Research shows that when a teacher gives a student an easier task and then praises that student excessively for completing it, the student may interpret the teacher's behavior as reflecting a belief that the student is less able. So whether we believe it or not, whether we realize it or not, so when we lower our expectation to the students, they see this one and they can sense this one, believing that they are less capable, that they have this lesser ability in what they are actually are or can do. Next one is that people are more likely to invest effort if they believe it will lead to the results they are trying to achieve. So student learning outcomes reflect the amount of time and instruction a students need to learn and whether the opportunity to learn and quality of instruction are sufficient to meet students' needs. While for teachers, we need to do whatever is needed to ensure that each student has the opportunity to learn the material in ways that are appropriate to him or her. Now, the next one is that among the highest performing countries, the patterns observed is that there's this gradual move from a system in which students were streamed into different types of secondary schools, with curricula demanding various levels of cognitive skills, into a different system in which all students go to secondary schools with similarly demanding curricula. So, yeah, the belief is that with this kind of uh, similar demand of every kinds of school without this kind of different streaming, the students believe that they are equal and that they are going to achieve the standard level or this particular set of standard. In short, education system achieve sustained high performance and equitable opportunities to learn by developing a system built on the premise that it is possible for all students to achieve at high levels, and that it is necessary for them to do so. The importance of clearly articulating the expectation that all students should be taught and held to the same standards. Next one is setting and defining high expectations. It is mentioned earlier in the previous subchapter, but here establishing standard can shape high-performing education systems by creating rigorous, focused, and coherent content, reducing overlap in the curriculum across grades, reducing variation in how curricula are delivered in different schools, and perhaps most important, reducing inequity between socioeconomic groups. We need to understand that most of the high-performing education system in PISA focus on the acquisition of complex higher-order thinking skills, and that they put that one and correlate that one with the skills to real-world problems. So instead of giving like multiple choice questions and yeah, those kind of questions, they simply ask students questions such as who is correct, how do you know, can you explain why he or she is correct. In these kind of questions, it triggers the students more analysis or more evaluative skills rather than just memorizing things. The first part is about the exams as a step towards qualification. Just like in Indonesia, often examinations are linked to national qualification system, in which one cannot go on to the next phase of education or begin a career in a particular field without showing that one is qualified to do so. So this one also like my own experience with my students as well, that they tend to collect certificates or qualifications in order to, let's say, have a scholarship or to enroll themselves to a certain universities or colleges. Also, when they want or that if we want to apply to a job, we need to have these kind of qualifications or certificates. Now, uh, because examinations are typically externally graded, The teacher, student, and parents feel that they are all the same side, working towards the same end. It is true that high-stakes examinations can lead to a focus on test preparation at the expense of real learning. The development of large private tutoring industries that tend to favor the wealthy and incentives for cheating. So I also see this one and experience this kind of thing. So, for example, like in the past, where the national exams was the ultimate, what is that, measure, or the ultimate way to say that a particular student is graduated from senior or junior high school or in the elementary school. Yeah, it created this kind of tendency that there are some private tutor or agencies in which they offer like a shortcut, or making sure or guaranteeing that they can uh, yeah, that the students joining it or enrolling it will pass the exam like 100 or 90% like that. And this one is typically aiming to those like mid and high socioeconomic status or the society. And then parents and educators sometimes also argue that testing can make students anxious without improving their learning. However, the analysis of PISA show that the frequency of tests as reported by school principals is not related to the level of test anxiety reported by students. Instead, the data show that students' experience in school has a stronger relationship with their likelihood of feeling anxious. Students reported less anxiety when their teachers provide more support or adapt the lessons to their needs. The next one is exams as a factor in designing curricula. Education standards and examinations are where the system or of instruction begins, not where it ends. The key is how those standards and examinations translate into the curriculum, instructional materials, and ultimately instructional practice. So it is quite the opposite. Sometimes we tend to think that the examination or a standardized test is the goal for the curriculum. However, we need to understand and see it differently, that these kind of standardized tests or examinations are actually the beginning or the root to make the curriculum. Now, other countries have responded to new demands on what students should learn by layering more and more content on top of their curriculum, with the result that teachers are plowing through a large amount of subject matter content but with little depth. We are met with these kind of challenges with the reformation and also with the advancement in technology and the trend. So yeah, schools tend to add some more things, but they don't simply change the whole system or adapt to it, burdening not only the teachers but also the students, because they tend to give more materials, more content in the curriculum. But yeah, because of the limited time, they tend to simply explain it briefly or not really deep enough for the students to really understand, then again to apply it in real life. Here, parents often expect their children to learn what they had learned, and they may equate a reduction in content with lower standards. It is important to assemble the best minds in the country. So the leading experts in the field, but also those who understand how students learn and those who have a good understanding of the demand for and use of knowledge and skills in the real world. So in order to determine and regularly re-examine what topic should be taught in what sequence through the grades. Next one is recruiting and retaining high quality teachers. What teachers know and care about makes such a difference to student learning. So, like in the previous part of this chapter, saying that there's no school system that exceeds the quality of the teacher. So, this subchapter talks precisely about that. Here we see that students are unlikely to become lifelong learners if they don't see their teachers as such. So we as teachers, we are the example for the students. Whatever we do inspires them or not inspire them, or yeah, simply give them a positive inspiration, or also the opposite. It depends on us. So the quality of an education system can never exceed the quality of its teachers. So it is restated again here. Therefore, attracting, developing, and retaining the best teachers is the greatest challenge education systems have to face. To meet that challenge, governments can look to corporations to see how they build their teams. So we can simply see big businesses or corporation or companies in which they try to what is that, select or absorb the best quality employees, and how they do it and apply it in education system. So here the first one is attracting high quality teachers. High performing education system recruit teachers that make the teaching profession exclusive and teaching inclusive. So what shapes the pool from which industry selects its professionals? The social status associated with the job. Okay, so there are some. The first one is the social status associated with the job, and then the contributions a candidate feels he or she can make while in the job, and the extent to which the work is financially and intellectually rewarding. So it's not simply about the money, but yeah, more or less it is about these three. The social status associated with the job, so how the society perceive the profession. The second one is the contributions of what the teachers or yeah, simply educators can feel when they're working. And the last one is of course the financial and intellectual award. While it is relatively easy to make teaching more financially attractive, it tends to be much harder to make teaching more intellectually attractive. It depends on how the work of teachers is organized, the opportunities teachers have for professional growth, and how their work is regarded in the profession and by society at large. The next one is educating high quality teachers. So we know previously the three things that teacher or yeah, how to recruit teachers or high quality teachers. Now we learn more about educating. By raising the bar to enter the teaching profession, these countries discourage young people with poor qualifications from becoming teachers. So yeah, I highlight this part in respect of discussing about yeah, educating high quality teachers. So like in Finland or in some high performing countries, they set or they have this kind of standard, a high standard for the teachers as well. So yeah, they believe that having a professional teachers will guarantee the outcome of a high performing students as well. So a combination of raising the bar for entry and granting teachers greater autonomy and control over the classrooms and working conditions has helped lift the status of the profession. So like I said earlier, so some countries see or perceive the profession of teachers not so seriously compared to other countries like Finland here as an example. Therefore, in order to raise that one or lift the status of the profession, yeah, so setting a high standard or the entry bar for teachers to attend or to apply for the job and giving them the yeah, the right autonomy and control on the classroom will work. However, one of the biggest challenges for the future is that we become better at recognizing teachers for what they know and can do, rather than how they became a teacher. Next one is updating teacher skills. If we want schools to support more effective learning for students, we need to think harder about how to offer more powerful learning opportunities for teachers. Teacher development tends to focus on initial teacher education, the knowledge and skills that teachers acquire before starting work as teacher. So this is simply how we see education, or uh, let's say uh, professional development for teachers. We simply focus on the basic one, on the initial process, but we tend to forget in the mid and in the continuation or in the progression. So given the rapid changes in education and the long careers of many teachers, teachers' development must be viewed in terms of lifelong learning. So like I said earlier, with initial teacher education, the foundation of for ongoing learning, not the summit of professional development. Also, effective professional development needs to be continuous and include education, practice and feedback, and provide adequate time for follow-up. Successful programs involve teachers in learning activities that are similar to those they will use with their students. They encourage the development of teachers' learning communities through which teachers can share their expertise and experiences. Now, this is also quite interesting that teachers with a very high or very low sense of self-efficacy may be less likely to use the new skills they have learned, while those with moderate confidence in their own ability might be the most likely to do so. So I remember one of our lecturers here with Mandala explained about this one. So the tendency is that it is like a bell. So those in the middle, not simply the lowest nor the highest performing teachers, will tend to have the courage or the motivation to try new things, to apply what they have learned when compared to those lower or higher performing teachers or also students actually. By supporting the conditions and activities most associated with effective teacher professional development, policymakers can increase the likelihood that students are positively affected too. Okay, I think we can skip this part. Okay, the next one is seeing teachers as independent and responsible professionals. There was this renewed focus on teacher professionalism as key to education reform. So as improving teacher quality became viewed as the key to student achievement, teacher professionalism gained prominence. So teacher professionalism varies significantly across countries, that it reflects cultural and historical differences as well as disparities in national and local policy priorities. So like how we see here in figure 3.5, so teacher professionalism and its components vary considerably around the world. So knowledge is defined as expertise that is necessary for teaching. And then we have the autonomy, and then we also have the peer networks. Okay, next one. When rated on their professional knowledge base, their decision-making power over their work, and their opportunities for exchange and support, teachers still have significant challenges ahead of them. So when teachers teach a class jointly, when they regularly observe other teachers' classes, and when they take part in collaborative professional learning, they are more satisfied with their careers and feel more effective in their teaching. Okay, so the next one is making the most of teachers' time. The Finnish schools devote about a third of instruction time to learning outside the classroom, thus giving teachers ample opportunity to tackle underperformance and nurture talent. The special needs education is not synonymous with teaching students with learning difficulties. Rather, the school has recognized that it can do more for him or her outside classroom instruction. So sometimes teachers are burdened by the time that they have, or let's say the teaching load or the teaching hours they have in or at school. So for example, here we have the United States and Vietnam being compared, and also the Brazil and Japan, in which they both have an average class size of around 37 students. But the surprising thing is that they have like this different uh, workload or teaching time. So the lesser they have in the classroom, it means that they have more time to deal with the students outside the lesson hour. So here, the example from Finland is that they don't simply focus on the students left behind academically, but they have this special needs education. But the special needs education does not mean that only for those left behind, but simply in any point, any students can simply become the special needs student. So even those who are really smart, they can also have the chance to learn more, what to do more, like that. So the teachers also think about these high performing students and making sure that they will do more, not only inside but also outside the classroom. This is also another example from Japan, from the creative learning time from Hiroshima. The school's pedagogical approaches involve experiences in addition to intellectual engagement. So yeah, the Japanese school system make sure that they don't simply learn the academics or simply the knowledge, but how they apply that one in real world. For example, here one of the principal in one of the Japanese school, he showed a picture of students after walking like 44 kilometers through the night, and he explained that the aim of the exercise was to strengthen their resilience with the understanding that living in the world means trying, failing, adapting, learning, and evolving. Okay, next one is aligning incentives for teachers, students, and parents. To understand why people do the things they do, we need to ask ourselves what sort of incentives they have to act that way. The examination system provides strong incentives for students to study hard. But in professional work environments, the success of the whole group depends on maximizing the output of each worker, so workers tend to collaborate. In schools, the environment is also shaped by the influence of parents. Classroom teachers can follow students through a number of grades. So they assume that a certain responsibility for the students in the class and form a close relationship not only with students but also with parents. So here it is like the homeroom teacher, by not simply following the students in one particular year. Instead, it follows the students from, let's say, year 1 up to year 3, or in elementary school from year 1 to year 6. So in doing so, it gives this kind of guarantee that the teacher or the classroom teacher will know and care more and be responsible for the students he or she is handling for those particular years, and also working with the parents closely for the sake of the students. Now here, the parents in this system tend to feel a strong bond with their children's classroom teachers. Next one, that focusing on students' well-being. PISA is best known for its data on learning outcomes, but in 2015, the results show that students differ greatly both between and within countries in how satisfied they are with their lives, their motivation to achieve, how anxious they feel about their schoolwork, their expectations for the future, and their perceptions of being bullied at school or treated unfairly by their teachers. Okay, from the examples like Estonia, Finland, and Netherlands, or the Switzerland seem able to combine good learning outcomes with high student satisfaction with life. There are other factors that affect students' well-being, and many of them are related to teachers, parents, and schools. Now, the major threat to students' sense of belonging at school is their perception of having negative relationship with their teachers. So the happier the students, they will report positive relations with their teachers. On the other hand, when they receive, uh, let's say, more negative relationship, they will, yeah, or when they don't have enough support from the teachers, they will report to have more negative relationship with the teachers. So happier students here, okay, receive much more support from their teachers than students in unhappy schools reported. We need to take notes here that teenagers forge strong social ties. They value acceptance, care, and support from others, and the adolescents who feel that they are part of a school community are more likely to perform better academically and be more motivated in school. Okay, so talking about anxiety, students were also less likely to report anxiety if their teacher provides individual help when they're struggling. Sorry. On the contrary, negative teacher-student relations seems to undermine students' confidence and lead to greater anxiety. In short, teachers need to know how to help students develop a good understanding of their strengths and weaknesses and an awareness of what they can do to overcome or mitigate their weaknesses. Now, in terms of parents, parents have a vital role to play too. According to the survey or the study, the spending time just talking is the parental activity most frequently and most strongly associated with student satisfaction with life. So, if parents want to spend more time, especially let's say when they are having dinner with their children and then they ask or care about their children's education or asking about how they're doing at school, so particularly the students or the children will be more motivated and will show a better well-being. This also influence with their performance too, as like I said, that it also boosts their moral and also motivation in learning. Okay, talking about motivation, so parents and teachers also need to be aware of this because sometimes when we motivate in terms of uh, achievement, sometimes it gives like the drawback or the downside. For example, it may trigger more anxiety or yeah, the students will get more pressure with the preparation of the tests or examinations, and they will get more anxious about whether they're going to achieve a good grade or a bad one. So both teachers and parents need to find ways to encourage students' motivation to learn and achieve without generating an excessive fear of failure. Next one is developing capable education leaders. Now, poor leadership can undercut even the best teacher. So I particularly love this quote. So four groups of interrelated leadership responsibilities are central to improving learning outcomes. The first one is supporting, evaluating, and developing teacher quality. The second one, sorry, still the first one. So if we want to effect real and lasting change, we need not to ask ourselves how many teachers support our ideas, but how many teachers are capable of and engage in cooperation with their colleagues. So this is the first key for yeah, developing a capable education leaders. And then the second one is establishing learning objectives and assessments to help students reach high standards. The third one is using resources strategically and aligning them with pedagogy. And then the fourth one is building partnerships beyond the school to foster greater cohesion among all those concerned with the achievement and well-being of every child. When teachers can take the lead in initiating improvement and innovation in their schools, they feel more competent and confident. and both their professional status and their morale get a boost. Next one is finding the right level of school autonomy. Many schools have been granted greater autonomy so that principals, school boards, and teachers can assume more responsibility for policies related to resources, the curriculum, assessment, school admissions, and discipline. So school autonomy is defining the details of the curriculum, and assessment is positively related to the system overall performance. It can create stronger incentives for innovation. However, we need to be aware that school autonomy will be self-defeating if it is interpreted as functioning in isolation. So instead, autonomy should take the form of freedom and flexibility to work with many partners. Here, we need to underline also that the Academy show how important it is to combine professional autonomy with a collaborative culture, both among teachers and among schools. And to be judged as outstanding in leadership, schools have to show they are helping improve education beyond their own walls, and that if autonomy can be combined with a culture of collaboration, not only with schools benefit, but individual teachers will too. Okay, the next one is moving from administrative to professional accountability. As we know that assessment and accountability allow educators and policymakers to keep their finger on the pulse of progress in education. However, the approaches to accountability evolve as school systems themselves evolve. In this case, often this progression involves a shift in the balance between administrative accountability and professional accountability. We need to understand what administrative accountability is. So this is typically uses data to identify good teachers and good schools and to intervene in underperforming schools, mostly using the data based on the accountability system that use from student performance. By contrast, professional accountability refers to systems in which teachers are accountable not so much to administrative authorities, but primarily to their fellow teachers and school principals. This includes the kind of personal responsibility that teachers feel towards their peers, their students, and their students' parents. The underlying assumption was that teachers are professionals who are trying to do the right thing, and that any inadequacies in teachers' performance are much more likely to stem from a lack of knowledge than from a lack of motivation. Therefore, the trend is to give more training and to have more like professional development instead of cutting them from the school. The first thing is the importance of trust. Finnish leaders empower their teachers by trusting them, and in doing so, they create a virtuous circle of productivity and innovative learning environments. As an example, Finnish teachers trust in their education leaders. They trust their leaders' integrity and count on their capacity to do what they say. Now, clear accountability might be a necessary feature of a high trust culture. Trust is also a function of specific competence. So it is not simply a blind trust. As an example here, so if we trust our mother, we need to think twice whether we want or whether we're going to trust her to fly a Boeing 747, right? Okay, now the next one is who says she's a great teacher. So the emphasizing professional accountability at the front line does not conflict with establishing a culture of evaluation throughout the system. Teacher appraisal system in most countries are still a work in progress, and that there is no consensus on what criteria should be used to measure teacher performance. Here we have whether it's supposed to be the student's test score, the ability to engage classroom, the classroom management and things. But yeah, appraisal system need to be part of a holistic approach to the profession. including teacher education and professional development, nurturing school leaders, and engaging teachers in reform and in creating attractive working environments. For example, here in Singapore, so the teachers are appraised yearly against 13 different competencies. So they're not just about academic performance, but it includes the teachers' contributions to the academic and character development of the students in their charge, their collaboration with parents and community groups, and their impact on their colleagues and the school as a whole. And what is surprising is that those teachers view this as an instrument for improvement and career development, and to determine which of the three career paths would best suit them, whether it's going to be the master teacher, specialist in curriculum or research, or as the school leader. Okay, I think I can skip this part. Now the next one is articulating a consistent message. School leaders and teachers are rarely involved in designing policies. Since they do not see the bigger picture, they are less likely to be able to help craft the delivery chain linking intention and implementation of policies that is central to success. Therefore, there is a great need for consistency and continuity when a school system is trying to improve. One example here is speaking with one voice in Singapore. So like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of my yeah presentation, that Singapore have changed from surviving into being the top one in education, because there's this close connection among policy, research, and practice, in which it keeps the vision forward looking and dynamic, and that education is expected to change as conditions change, and that it is not stuck in the past. So the milestone courses, as they're called, bring together top officials from all the ministries to create a shared understanding of national goals. So simply from bottom top, everyone involved in the education system understand the goal. What is the policy being implemented? What is the plan from the government? Yeah, so this is one of the key as an example in Singapore. Everyone knows what they're doing. Next one is spending more versus spending wisely. If average performing OECD countries are to move from the middle ranks in performance to the top ranks, either they will have to radically improve the efficiency of their education systems, or they will have to increase the amount spent on them enormously. What I meant here is the investment or the money. So the challenge is thus to wring much more from every dollar spent. Like for example, one way is that Japan puts a large share of its resources into core instructional services, so they don't spend more money on the building or the school services or the sports events and programs, but they save all of those things and focus on the core ones. Therefore, they have more savings which can be used to pay teachers relatively well. Another way to get better results without spending more money is to make basic changes in the way the education system is organized. So countries that opt for large classes can afford to pay their teachers better. So like in Japan, so they tend to still have like large number of students in the classroom. So with more students in the classrooms, they will get more money because and also they will have like lesser time, so they can focus more time for other things like developing their teachers more. Here in the top performing countries, although teachers may earn relatively higher pay, fewer administrators are needed and fewer additional specialists are required, making it possible to employ higher quality teachers and still enjoy lower net cost. Why? Because if they have to save more money, or if they spend more money for paying the teachers or choosing a low quality teachers, they will end up like wasting more money for the next step, or let's say for the continuation of the school as a whole, because they will need to, let's say, improve the quality of the teacher, and or maybe they will need to change the teachers every year, and in this case they will, yeah, they will spend more money. So here, like, while improved skills consistently generate more benefit for individuals and nations, more money does not automatically generate improved education. Okay, so there are five top education systems, but I would like to mention, yeah, one, Singapore here, because I keep mentioning. What makes high-performing countries different is that their acute awareness of underperformance and inequities in their education systems, and their ability to mobilize their resources, innovation, and will to tackle them. Okay, so Singapore's improvement in education was a deliberate decision to use education as a foundation for building an advanced economy. So education was to be the engine of economic growth. As we know that Singapore is a very small country, so they don't have much natural resources or the human resources. So yeah, they focus on something else, and that is the education. The Singaporean or Singapore saw an educated population as its most valuable asset, so it helped construct a shared sense of identity and bring together different ethnic groups and religions. This economic upgrade was accomplished by overhauling the education system, introducing a new curriculum and different pathways for academic and vocational studies. There are clear goals for what schools and individuals are expected to achieve, a rigorous exam system, and high academic standards. So they also introduced the process for recruiting and educating high quality staff with the aim of attracting the brightest and the best into the classroom, with a strong emphasis on professional development. Okay, so I think that's all what I can present for the third chapter. I hope it can be as clear as what I have highlighted here in the chapter. So thank you very much, and God bless you all.